This presentation is about flexible volunteering. I'm David Morris, I'm the District Commissioner for Wrexham Scouts. If you've got any questions about the presentation, then you can email me at dc@wrexhamscouts.org.uk. Now, usually if we ask the following question, any volunteers to take over as Scout leader, the reaction we'll get from most adults, most parents, will be a rush for the door. And that's because most people don't know what the role of Scout leader entails. And if they did know, they probably still wouldn't volunteer. Because in truth, the role of Scout leader as it stands is a really busy role. They run the activities, keep the kids safe, take the register, plan the programme, book the venue, arrange the guest speaker, do the shopping, keep track of the badges, collect the money, tell everyone what's going on, promote the group, etc, etc, etc. But what if, rather than just having one superhuman person doing that role of Scout leader, we had a team of people doing smaller roles such as activity runner, money collector, badge recorder, stuff getter, communicator, and programme planner? Let's explain some of those roles. Activity runner. So that's the person who actually turns up on the night and puts on the activities for the young people, make sure they're safe, things like that. Quite basic, but quite important as well. Does that person need to be there for the full session? Well, yes, they do. Do they need to be there every week? No, actually, if we get a couple of people to volunteer, you can only make it every other week, then they can do some sort of share. So there's flexible ways around that. Do they need to be able to get to the meeting place? Well, yes, yeah, unless you're doing a meeting via Zoom like we have done, but most of the weeks now we'll need to get to the meeting place. And do you need to do stuff between sessions? Well, no, actually you don't. Now, most people who are already Scout leaders or club leaders, they'll think, well, actually, yeah, we do. We have to do loads of stuff between the sessions, but bear with me and I'll explain why that doesn't necessarily have to be the case for activity runner. Because if we split the role up a little bit, we actually have a separate person doing the programme planner. So they're the ones who actually make sure there's a programme plan for each week, make sure that's communicated, and make sure it's nice and balanced. Then that takes some of the role off what used to be the Scout leader's job to do it all. For example, I've been speaking to some adults and some parents recently, and one parent came up to me and said, "Actually, I'm a school teacher. Okay, so I'm used to dealing with kids, but I deal with kids all week long. And to be fair, the kids are with me all week. And the last thing they want is me turning up running Cubs or Scouts on a Thursday night or a Friday night. But I do have the skills for putting a good program together, so perhaps I could help in that way." And that person then wouldn't need to attend the session, wouldn't need to be there every week, wouldn't even need to be able to get to the meeting place. But yeah, they would have to do some stuff between the sessions. So that's another part. So if we have two people, one person running the activities and one person planning the activities, perhaps that's shared the load a little bit. Another really simple role would be a stuff getter. Now I can remember when I was section leader, used to get home from work, wolf my tea down, and then have to rush to Tesco on the way to Scouts to pick up the craft materials or the food if you're doing cooking night. Looking at my watch, thinking, "Oh God, it's 10 to 7. I've got to be there in 10 minutes' time." If I had a parent who actually came forward or a volunteer to come forward to do that for me, that would have been a really big help. It's a really small job, but it's one less thing that the activity runner would have to do. So this person wouldn't need to be able to attend this full session. They wouldn't need to be there every week. So if you can share, or you don't always need things getting every week. Do you need to get to the meeting place? Well, yeah, if you're getting stuff, then you need to be able to drop it off either before the meeting or when you drop off the kids. And do you need to do stuff between the sessions? Well, yeah, actually picking up the stuff before the meeting, but that's not that onerous. Another role is as badge recorder. Again, this person doesn't need to be at the session as long as what happened on the evening and who was there was communicated to that badge recorder. Then they don't need to be there. Don't need to be there every week. Don't even need to be able to get to the meeting place, but they need to do some stuff between the sessions. Another role that traditionally is up to one of the leaders to do, but again, this could be done by somebody else. Money collecting. Do they need to be there for the full session? No. This is something that should be done at the start. So if you're a parent or a carer dropping off your young person at the start of the meeting, then perhaps you could be the one to go into a side room, the kitchen or wherever, and collect those subs payments or the camp fees off the other parents. Do they need to be there every week? No. No, so that's not a commitment. It's not a weekly commitment. You don't have to collect money each week. And some groups are doing this online anyway, so there could be just someone actually could be done remotely. So yeah, if it's done remotely, then you don't even have to get to the meeting place. But if you're not doing things online and you're actually collecting checks and things like that, then you need to get to the meeting place for that. And yes, there will be a commitment to things to do between the sessions, but probably not much. Another role is communicator. So that's the person who kind of makes sure that everyone knows what's going on each week, puts a message on the Facebook group or text out to the parents or however you want to do it via OSM, for example. Need to be able to attend the full session, and they don't need to. Don't need to be there every week. Don't even need to be able to get the meeting place. They can do that all from home. Yeah, but they need to do stuff between the sessions. So every week we basically need at least 2 activity runners, probably more than that, but two at least. A program to have been planned by the program planner. Doesn't need to be every week, but they do the program planning. They can do it in a batch of 10, for example, but they need to make sure that that was done for each week. The communicator would need to have sent out what's going on to everyone, so everyone knows what's happening. And probably the activity runner would need to be able to tell the badge recorder who was there on the session and what actually happened that night and who took part, who took an active part. Now, traditionally, all those things have been done by one person or the scout leader and assistant scout leader. But as you can see, if we can split these up into lots of different roles, it's a lot less an onerous task. Now and again, we'd need things dropped off by the stuff getter, subs and fees collected by the money collector, promotional stuff done by the communicator. So yeah, as well as the communicator sending out texts and Facebook messages, perhaps they could help publish some photos from the night and share the good stuff that the section's doing. Now, there are some possible issues with this system compared to just one person doing it all. We'd have to fit it with the current Scout rules. So if somebody came up at the moment and said, "I'd like to be a stuff getter," then there may be some confused people around who deal with our Scout database because we don't have a role currently for stuff getter. But there are ways and means around that. We'd also need to agree who needs DBS checks, who needs certain sort of training, because there are training responsibilities with roles. We can't expect people to be an activity runner without having some sort of training on how to keep people safe, that sort of thing. So, as parents, you'd expect that. If you're a parent, you'd expect that the people who are running the meeting actually have the correct levels of training so they know what they're doing. Communications is probably the biggest issue. It's all very well having lots of people doing different tasks, but unless they know who's doing what, when, what they need to do, it'll all fall down. So communication is something which is key, and we probably need to make sure that one person is in charge of that. And what happens if someone lets us down? Well, that kind of happens now anyway. So if you've got a scout leader who is ill that week and can't turn up, then all of these things don't happen that week. Actually, with the task spread out over more people, that probably is less of an issue. Finally, let's just look at what the existing rules we currently have, so that if people are interested in helping out, then these are the things that they need to be aware of. So the roles we currently have are assistant section leader or section leader. They're much the same thing, really. They both have the same job and training requirements. Section assistant is a step down from that, a less of a training requirement. Occasional helper is that does what it says in the tin, that somebody helps out probably less than once a month. And finally, a parent helper. So the assistant section leader, or the section leader, is actually the person who has to be there. We have to have one person of that who has that role there each week, because they're the people who've been fully trained and know what's going on, and be able to take responsibility for the young people. The section assistants are there. Most week we should have a section assistant there helping out. Occasional helpers, to say now and again, and parent helpers can help out as well. But I'll explain the difference between occasional helper and parent helper a little bit more in a minute. So who needs DBS check out of those? All of them need DBS check, apart from the parent helper. Parent helper doesn't have unsupervised access to young people, so we don't need a DBS check for that. And the main difference between occasional helper and parent helper is the occasional helper can go on nights away activities and can be left alone with a group of young people without us having to check that so they need a DBS check to do that. Parent helper wouldn't need that. Training. So the assistant section leader or the section leader would need the full training. I know that sounds quite a lot. Oh, full training. But it's something which can be done over 3 years. A lot of it can be done on the job, and it really does take into account already prior knowledge that an adult would have. For a section assistant, it's just basic training, so something which can probably be done over 2 or 3 evenings, and lots of that's online. And for the other 2 roles, there's no training requirement. Do they need to be there every week? No, none of these need to be there every week. If we can get, as I said before, if we can get 4 assistant section leaders who can be there, each of them can only be there every other week, then we could cover that requirement. We can be really flexible. Can run a meeting, so it's only the assistant section leader who can actually run the meeting. You couldn't have 3 section assistants running a meeting because they don't have the full training. So you'd need at least one section assistant, at least one assistant section leader or section leader to be there each night. And finally, attend camps. So all of them can attend camps apart from the parent helper, because the parent helper doesn't have the DBS. So I hope that presentation has explained a little bit about the different roles in Scouting and actually how we can break them up. So rather than having just a Scout leader and an assistant Scout leader, we could have a team of people who can do a little bit which suits to them, whether it's actually being in the hut, or whether it's something they can do from their own homes, whether it's something where they actually have to turn up each week, or something again where they can just drop something off and then go home. Whatever your time availability, we can probably find a role for you, unless you completely have not a single minute of the week to give us. We can kind of find a way that you can help us. So please do get in touch. If you want to look at our website, which is wrexhamscouts.org.uk/volunteer, and there will be all of this information is on there, and you can sign up on there if you can help us. Thank you very much for listening.